In the last update from Studio, we got a new feature in the Mosaic Maker. In this video, I'm going to go through all the options with you and show you how to use it. The Mosaic Maker was a feature that a lot of people were really excited about, and I have seen quite a few different designs done that really make good use of it. I haven't had a lot of time to play with it since it's released, but I have looked at it a bit. So hopefully some of these tips will help you get the most out of using the Mosaic Maker. One of the biggest issues so far that I've seen is that a lot of people are talking about how expensive it's going to be to actually create these mosaics. So I'm going to give you a few tips on how you can lower the cost of it. Just as a quick reminder, I am a Lego commission artist. I've done all sorts of designs for people all around the world, from commercial to personal collections. If there's a project you have in mind that you would like to be brought into brick form, all of my contact information is in the description below. Also, if you are on Facebook, we have the Studio Lego Designers Facebook group. This is a group for new users and advanced users to be able to ask questions, share their designs, and create a strong studio community. So if you want to check that out, the link is in the description below. Okay, to start the Mosaic Maker, you have two options. You have the import option under the File menu, where you can import a mosaic, or you can click a button on the top bar right beside the instruction maker. First, I want to start with this POW image. So in the opening screen, we have the option to use the entire image or crop it. Once you select crop, then you have some aspect ratios you can use that are preset, or you can choose custom. When you choose custom, you are able to freeform the crop of the image. And if you choose one of the aspect ratios, then it will automatically adjust the crop to fit that aspect ratio. You can also go with landscape or portrait, and that pretty much covers what you can do in the initial screen. Once you have the crop to your satisfaction, then you can click on Mosaic, and this will load all the other options we have to use with the Mosaic Maker. To begin with, at the very top is our base size. So this basically corresponds to resolution on a screen, and if you know anything about resolution, the higher the pixel count, the better the picture you're going to have. So the higher we go with our stud count, the greater the definition of the image will be. Keep in mind, though, this is one of the determining factors on how expensive your mosaic is going to be. Obviously, a bigger area means you're going to have more studs covered. Thus, you're going to be making your mosaic much more expensive. The next option we have is base. So if you wish, you can have Studio generate a base for your mosaic to sit on. Most of the time, you're just going to want to default to have this on, but in some cases, maybe you're going to be putting your mosaic on a building or something like that, and you don't really need to have a base built on the back of it. And then the next option is to use a base plate if it's possible. So in this case, you're going to get a thin base plate behind the mosaic rather than a standard plate. In the next section, we have brick types and colors. Here you can choose what kind of brick you want to compose your mosaic image. And we have the option of using plates, tiles, bricks, round plates, or round tiles. This is another area where you can control how much money your mosaic is going to cost. If you're happy with plates, typically they are the least expensive option, when you get into tiles or round plates or round tiles, then the expense starts going up. In some cases, bricks aren't much more expensive than plates. And if you want something that's really stable and stands out from the base a bit, then you can use bricks to do that. Next, we're going to look at the color palette. Again, this is an area that's going to determine the cost of the mosaic quite a bit. So you can choose all Bricklink colors, and that will go through the entire catalog of all colors that have ever been produced, which means, again, that some odd colors might make it in, which will drive up the cost. You can choose available Bricklink colors. These are the ones that are currently available on Bricklink. And the last option is using the custom palette. So this option is going to allow you to choose your colors very carefully. You can go through and create a custom palette using the colors that you want in that mosaic, and then come back and render out the mosaic using that custom palette. So this is going to give you ultimate control in cost and color selection for your mosaics. In the next screen, we have our image and color adjustment. This area is really important for determining what colors you're going to use, thus how expensive your mosaic is going to be, and it also lets you refine your image a bit. And again, that's going to play into how cost effective your mosaic is. We have a few preset options right off the top. We can go with original, and you can see that in this one there is a lot of artifacts in that yellow, and we have some browns and some other oranges, some grays in there. So there's a lot of different colors in this mosaic, which means the cost is probably going to go up quite a bit. Next, if we select portrait, then our color palette is greatly reduced, and you can also see the cost for the mosaic went down quite a bit. The next one we can do is grayscale, and you might think that this would be a cheaper option, but actually, if you look at the colors involved, the whites, the blacks, and the grays and dark grays, the actual cost for those parts is really high because they're used a lot in mocks. So because of that, this option can be quite expensive. And then finally, we have our custom option. So let's go to the portrait first of all, and then we're going to work from here, going down through these options to show you the changes that you can make to that image. First, we're going to deal with hue and saturation. If you have seen Andy Warhol's art, you are quite familiar with how hue and saturation can work to change an image. So if you just grab the slider and move it up and down through the hue, we can see the definition of the image doesn't change, but the colors within that image change. So hue is basically just looking at how different colors can interact with each other and still contain the same type of composure. Saturation in this image isn't going to make a big change, but if you had a very detailed image, you would see a lot more differences with that. When I do the picture of myself later on, you're going to see a bigger change in the saturation, but just know when you have nice bright colors and very delineated areas, that saturation doesn't actually change that much. We can go 100% on this, and you'll notice a few little artifacts pop up, but actually the image pretty much remains constant because we already are at near complete saturation of the colors. Next, we can look at brightness and contrast. So this applies the same with mosaics as in standard photo editing. If you bump up the brightness, your image is going to get washed out a bit. So we'll go to 100, and you can see there's a lot more white in this image than before. By comparison, if we go, say, at minus 50%, the image is going to be much darker. And if we go down below that, our image will be entirely black. If we move on to contrast, this is where we create our stark differences between light and shadow and between areas that are being delineated by certain colors. So in this one, we have 100% contrast right now. So we have a really strong delineation between one area and the next. If we go to 0, then you see the image get a bit more fuzzy because we have more detail being added in the median areas. Then if we go minus 50, we get something that looks like it's sitting in the shade and it's not getting a lot of light at all. I will look at color smoothing a bit more in the next example that I use. For now, know that because we have an image that has really dark lines and really strong contrast, that color smoothing isn't necessary because the colors are already well delineated. If we take a look at threshold here, just as an example, if we go from 0 to 500, you will notice very little change in the image. 500 cleans up the image a bit and gets rid of some artifacts. So if you're going for a strong, stark image, then you're going to want to boost up the threshold. The last thing we can do is do some price optimization. Obviously, if you are willing to use various sized parts, then Studio has more parts to choose from and will pick the cheapest available part. And if you're willing to compromise on the colors, that will save money as well. So if you just put this one down to 0%, then Studio will change the image to the most economical option. We will create this mosaic and see what it looks like now. Well, there we go. We got a nice bright image, and that would definitely stand out in a display or on a Lego wall. Very quickly, I'm going to run through some of the things that I skipped with the first image and show you those with the more complex image here. So we're going to first crop it at 1:1, and that looks good. Then we're going to click Create Mosaic. It's going to bring us over into the Mosaic tab. And you can see that we have a lot more colors in this image, and the price tag is much higher. So first thing you can do is look to see which option is going to be your cheapest for creating the mosaic. And it turns out in this one that the brick would actually be cheaper. I'm going to keep it on portrait. I'm going to keep the hue and the saturation pretty much the same. The brightness is fine. The contrast is a bit much, so I'm going to drop down the contrast. So I'm going to go down to the color smoothing, and you're going to see a lot of changes when I do this. So we'll bump our image to 500, and you can see it gets really pixelated, almost to the point you can't recognize the image at all. So we'll go halfway mark at 250, and we get some of the background coming in, but again, you can't recognize much of the first image. At 100, we start to get some more definition. So the closer you take the threshold down to 0, the more true to the initial image the mosaic will be. And at 20%, it's not even close to the original image at all, but we've knocked almost $300 US off the price. So we'll go to 50%. Again, not close. 75. And now we're getting somewhere in the range of the picture. This is pretty close to the original. So what you want to do if you're trying to get the cost down is play a bit with the color similarity until you get it into the range that you're happy with. Make sure to go back and forth and play with these other variables a bit after you've played with the color similarity. For instance, if we knock down the saturation after that, then we get a much more clean image than we had prior. So you can definitely see the subject in this one much better. So the idea is you're going to have to play around with a lot of these different things to be able to hone in the mosaic and get it to look exactly like you want. But it definitely is an interesting feature in Studio, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people drawn to Studio to use this feature and play with it quite a bit. So here's our finished result of that mosaic. So I hope this video has given you a bit more insight into how the Mosaic Maker works and how to create a little bit more cost-effective mosaics. Of course, I can see in the future some designers using the Mosaic Maker to create interesting backgrounds for their mocks. It'd be interesting to pull in some different artwork as a backdrop. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of interesting uses of the Mosaic Maker from different designers. If this video has helped you out, please take the time to like and subscribe and share it around to others who can benefit from it so we can continue to keep growing the studio community. In the next video, I'm going to take a look at using the step view to help organize your instructions a bit better, so I hope you join me for that. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Keep dreaming in bricks. Bye-bye.